put a finger down if one day you're on TikTok and you get a notification that you're tagged in a post. An internet friend you have had tagged you in a Game Master's post where they were posting about a TTRPG campaign idea that they had. They were looking for players for a game that was basically Bridgerton meets the Hunger Games, and they just wanted to make it a massive online AP TTRPG. And this internet friend thought you'd be interested in it. And so you see the tag, obviously you sign up, and then suddenly you get cast in the game. Then almost immediately after, you get laid off, you lost your job, and then you fell into a pretty deep depression because the job market was terrible and you were really struggling to find a new job. But at the same time, every week, you still had this game to look forward to and this story that you were all starting to tell together. And so every week you still got to show up and play and tell a story with people in this massive project. And that project kept you going and kept you feeling motivated even when things outside of it were really, really hard. And then you spent the next year and a half of your life completely obsessed with the story that you were all telling together while collaborating with at least like 110 other creators from literally all over the world in one massive shared project. These are all people you would have never in a million years met otherwise without this project existing. And then you're telling this beautiful story together, and weirdly, you're all talking in the Discord, and some of these people actually start connecting, and you actually start connecting with some of these people, and I feel like they actually became real friends, like actual, real, kind, caring friends of yours, and friends that you were excited to see at the next TTRPG convention that came up, where you all had a meetup and you got to see these people that you were playing this game with online in person for the first time. And then you left that convention feeling really inspired and really excited because you met all these people in person, and now it felt like you had friends. And then there was another convention that happened that had more meetups later on that year of the first year of that project, where you were cosplaying a character you hadn't cosplayed before, and your new shoes for your cosplay were really uncomfortable, and you were not wearing the right socks, and your hotel was far and it was cold. And so you decided to ask the group chat from the project, hey, is anyone seeing any vendors in the vendor hall that are selling socks? Because I need a new pair of socks. And one of them randomly, who you'd become kind of acquaintances with, was just like, hey, you want my socks? You can have them. I'm here. And you thought that was the most weirdly nice and random thing for someone to offer you, that you're like, oh, I love that. Also, I don't want your socks, but you are a good person for even offering in the first place. And it just made you adjust your perception of that person. Remember them because they'll be important later. Sock boy. And then after the project actually finishes, these friends that you made through the project kept making things because everyone's a creative. Some of them even invited you into new creative spaces that afterwards that kept you feeling kind of inspired and connected and grounded in the play and the storytelling. And then you're talking to Sockboy after that convention, and you decide to ask, actually, what were you cosplaying? Because it was something that you were unfamiliar with. And he passionately started telling you all about his favorite fantasy universe with such infectious excitement that you couldn't help but listen. And you decided to ask more about it, ultimately leading you to check it out yourself and read the first book of this very long fantasy universe that he was introducing you to. He gave you a recommended reading list that you're just like, okay, well, I will check out the first book because I'm still unemployed and I could use an audiobook to jump into. So you check out the first audiobook in this very long list of books that he was trying to introduce you to, which triggered you into discovering a fantasy universe that you became, after that first book, even within that first book, you became so obsessed with that you now, to this day, think about at least 50% of the time of your life. It's kind of embarrassing to admit that. So obviously you start cosplaying it, you start making videos about it, you start talking about it nonstop, and you're making it everyone else's problem around you. You're introducing other people to the gloriousness of this fantasy universe. Meanwhile, around that same time, you got a new job. Unfortunately, that job is in a totally different state, so suddenly you have to leave everything that you've done for the last 12 years and move to a whole new state. Pick up your life and take everything with you because that's the only job you have and the job market is terrible and capitalism sucks. So you do, and you leave all your friends behind, and it's kind of sad and you're kind of lonely and you miss feeling connected, and that project ended. All the other projects you were a part of were kind of winding down. And you start posting about how you wish you had a long campaign to join. You miss telling stories with people. And then 2 other people who you met through that original 110 creator big project, who also met through the project and actually ended up getting married. But that's very much their story. See that you're posting about wanting to join a new campaign and posting about this fantasy universe that you've just gotten obsessed with, and they invite you to play in a TTRPG campaign using the new game from that same fantasy universe that Sockboy introduced you to. And so obviously you say yes. You're so hungry for a new campaign. You're so hungry to play, and you also are very into this universe right now. Magically, you start playing, and it becomes the best campaign you've ever been in and the best story you've ever told. You become completely obsessed with the magic happening at the table and the characters that you're all creating together, and suddenly you are inspired again. You're inspired to learn digital art. You're inspired to try animation for the first time. Never done that before. You're inspired to create in a way that you haven't felt in a really long time. That's even after moving to a new state where you didn't really have any new friends yet. And you still knew that once that campaign started, that every Tuesday night, you still got to hang out with your friends online and tell this beautiful story together. And then completely randomly, a few months into this project, you're hit with a massive wave of wanderlust. You want to see more places. You want to explore. You feel trapped in this new state where you don't really have a lot of friends yet, and you post about it online. You want to travel somewhere. You've got the bug. You're feeling antsy. And so one of those friends from that campaign actually invites you to an event that they were going to in their country. And you're like, bet. And so suddenly you've bought a flight, and you end up going to Calgary 2 weeks after you buy that flight to hang out with them in person. And it makes you sit there and think of all of the tiny random things that had to happen to bring you to where you were, that you were suddenly flying to Canada to see 2 friends that you play games with online for a few days. It took 1 TikTok tag, 1 application for a game, one amazing game, 1 really bad year, 1 story, 1 friendship, 1 pair of socks, 1 book recommendation, 1 new story, 1 new campaign, and 1 random post. And somehow all of it mattered. So to recap, put a finger down if TTRPGs accidentally changed the entire shape of your life trajectory at its current moment.